Hey guys, Dave here. I got a hankering for some soul food and pork chops sounded really good, so I decided to make up these pork chops in mushroom gravy with some garlic and onions, and they came out absolutely incredible. So let me show you how to do this. So let's get started here with 3 bone-in pork chops, and I'm using bone-in because they seem to add about the most flavor, but it's entirely up to you. Season these up on both sides with a good hit of salt, and I'd say about a teaspoon. Of course, about the same amount of ground black pepper. And although we're going to add garlic later, I'm going to put a bit on now, another teaspoon I would say, and you can also put extra seasoning on such as paprika, whatever you like. Of course, like I said, you're going to give these guys a flip over and do the same thing on the other side. Next up, grab up a couple of knobs of unsalted butter and into a pan over medium-high heat, followed by about a tablespoon of olive oil, which really does stop the butter from burning. Go ahead and throw those chops in, and kind of arrange them so they're cozy and comfy and not too crowded in the pan. Now we are just going to allow these to sear up and cook through for a few minutes on each side. Inevitably, after a few minutes, you want to give them a flip over, but don't go too crazy flipping. And if you look closely, these chops are beginning to curl up, and that's because the fat is rendering and the chops are tensing up. So what I should have done is give them a few little cuts on the fatty side of the pork. Now I was lazy, but sure, you can if you like. So now these chops are beautifully cooked, I'm just going to set them aside on a plate and allow them to rest up. And believe me, allowing meat to rest really does make a difference. Okay, next up we're going to fairly finely slice about 6 button mushrooms. I suppose you could use shiitake or some other mushroom too, but I just find button mushrooms are about the cheapest. Once our mushrooms are all sliced up, we are going back into the same pan, and don't touch that pan because there's all kinds of wonderful flavor happening there. And we'll just go ahead and add in a little bit more olive oil. And stir and fry these mushrooms, and at the same time deglaze the pan until they begin to sweat and they're basically cooked through. Or at least browned up and covered with that beautiful glaze from the pan. Next up, in with a small sliced onion, 3 or 4 cloves of chopped garlic, because I did say garlic in the beginning and you just got to have garlic. And we'll just stir and saute this until that wonderful, incredible aroma of garlic fills the air. And here I go with that concept of smell-o-vision. And along with that, they should invent a cooking spray called onion and garlic. And even if you're not cooking, it would seem like you're cooking because you could spray it in the kitchen. Oh well, just a thought. Another thing I have to point out, look how wonderfully wonderful that pan is deglazed. Doesn't that look incredible, guys? Next up, we are going in with 2 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. And we'll just give this a stir around until that flour cooks through and a bit of a roux forms here. Then in with a 1.5 cups of beef broth, and we're doing this half at a time, so 3/4 of a cup first. Just kind of give this a stir around. And just check this out, guys, how that incredible mushroom gravy is beginning to form up. Now, of course, you're going to add in that other 3/4 of a cup. And again, happily stirring, we will go until that mushroom gravy comes together ever so nicely. And of course, you guessed it, my friends from Pork Chop Valley, back in with those chops that have rested and are smelling incredible and looking great. Of course, you gotta add in that juice from the chops that have rested. And we simply must spoon some of that mushroom gravy over top of the chops. What are you thinking here, guys? Now, I mean, don't these look good enough to eat? Absolutely gorgeous. And of course, we'll just spoon a little bit more and allow these to simmer away for another few minutes. Now we must add that chopped parsley over the top to make them greenish and all pretty like. And I don't know, my friends, this pretty much concludes our soul food pork chop journey, but just stick around because we're gonna give these a little taste. Of course, we always have to ask, what would the dinner crew think? And I think they are pretty darned happier they're going to be anyway. And just look at this, these chops covered in that mushroom gravy, those onions, the garlic. And you bite into these guys, it is incredible. The chops are tender, that flavor just shines through. You are going to love these. As I always say, if you're hungry for more, subscribe.